Thank you, Steve. And the first pitch of the game is hit deep to right field. Canseco's going to watch it sail out of here. And hello, everybody. Tony Phillips, with a greeting of his own, hitting a home run on the first pitch of the game to right field. And, John, I was going to say about Tony Phillips, he is the poor man's Ricky Henderson.
Tony Phillips gets into the first pitch of the game from Bobby Welch, sends it over the right field wall. And we didn't know if we were going to come on in time, Paul. We came on just at the right moment.
But Phillips is the type of guy who can hit the long ball. He has a little bit of speed. He doesn't run like Henderson used to do, but gets on base a lot.
Here's a fastball on the inside half. Phillips sitting on the fastball, and he gets all of it for his 8th home run of the year. He does have 37 RBIs now.
So Bobby Welch gives up his 11th home run of the season, and the A's trail already 1-0. But like any pitcher, John, I'm sure Bobby's saying, okay, one pitch, one home run, so what? It's only 1-0. Let's concentrate and get the rest of the inning in order. As Whitaker stands in, the second hitter of the game after Phillips goes deep.
Phillips is among the AL leaders in runs scored and walks, and he gets another run scored.
Long run for Ricky Henderson, and it's going to go foul. And Henderson, I don't know if he lost it. The fans are getting on it. And Ricky says, hey, have the souvenir. He didn't feel apparently confident enough that he could race all the way and catch that ball.
That's the 3rd time this season that Tony Phillips has led a game off with a home run as we watch Ricky go back.
Ricky's been bothered by the hamstring problems, of course. He was just activated prior to last night's game. So 1 ball, 2 strikes to Lou Whitaker. We're coming to you from Oakland. The A's won here last night, 4-0. A's have been getting fantastic pitching of late. Veteran Lou Whitaker. Tigers boasting a lot of home runs and a lot of strikeouts. Whitaker with a lengthy big league career with the Detroit Tigers, something rarely seen. And it was George Brett the other day said he's proud when he turns over his baseball card, John, and he can say that, hey, I've been with one team my entire career. You won't see much of that in the next 15, 20 years.
Not only has he been with one team his whole career, but he came up the same year with Alan Trammell. Trammell and him both now 34 years old. Both stellar careers in the big leagues. 14 years together at the Keystone Combo for the Tigers.
To the right side of McGuire, who underhand to Welch coming over. Well, let's take a look at the batting order. We saw the Tony Phillips home run leading off. And Lou Whitaker now grounds out to the right side with Welch covering. Travis Fryman, the Tigers All-Star Game representative, in the 3rd slot. Cecil Fielder, who was ignored by the All-Star crew, is in the number 4 position, followed by Templeton, Gladden, and Deere. And Livingstone and Kyler bats number 9. That group put on the field by Sparky Anderson tonight. And Travis Fryman takes upstairs. So Fryman drove in 91 runs last year. He has 57 runs this season. And he's playing shortstop, John, where his future lies. Into center field, and Jerry Brown. 2 outs.
Well, Travis Fryman gives you the kind of offense that you're not normally accustomed to of getting at the shortstop position. But the best tool that he's got is his throwing arm. We'll see that tonight, I hope. I hope he gets to go in the hole and throw somebody out for him.
Fryman with 13 home runs as well. They like that bat. But the Tigers really don't need a lot of bats. Here's one that impresses everybody, of course, Cecil Fielder. As Sparky Anderson was saying in the second half, he's going to concentrate on getting his pitching staff together. A lot of youngsters and looking towards next year. Cecil with 75 RBIs. And on hold at 18 home runs.
Unbelievable that he was left off of the All-Star team. RBIs is probably the most important offensive stat in the game.
This one is hooked deep, but it is a foul ball long out of here. When you talk about Tom Kelly, the manager of the Twins, and his assessment of a potential roster for the All-Star game, and is flat out overlooking Cecil Fielder. And admittedly, it's a very tough job. There are a lot of deserving ball players. But it would just seem that this is an automatic. So Cecil strikes out for the 83rd time this year. And Bobby Welch in the first inning. A home run on the first pitch to Tony Phillips, and then retires the side in order. 1-0 Detroit. 1-0 in favor of the Detroit Tigers on a leadoff home run by Tony Phillips. Now let's check Tony La Russa's lineup. And Ricky Henderson led off the game last night for the A's with a home run. He is back in the fold in left field. Carney Lansford, number 2. Jose Canseco DH last night, in the field tonight with the still sore shoulder. Harold Baines, the designated hitter, his back coming alive of late. Mark McGuire, the world home run leader at 28. Terry Steinbach doing the catching. Jerry Brown in center field. Mike Bordick at second base, and Walt Weiss rounds out the batting order in the number 9 slot at shortstop. And Bill Gullickson on the hill for Detroit.
Here's veteran Bill Gullickson. You can see his stats, 9 and 6. He leads the Tigers in innings pitched at 126. He's been easily their most reliable and consistent starter over the last 2 years. 20 and 9 last year, 9 and 6 so far this year. But his last 3 starts, he's been struggling a bit. He's 0-2 with a 4.37 over that time. Defensively, for the Tigers, Cecil Fielder will be at first base tonight. Veteran Lou Whitaker at second base. And the young star Travis Fryman at shortstop. Scott Livingstone at third. Dan Gladden, Milt Kyler, and Rob Deere in the outfield for the Tigers. And Mickey Tettleton, another all-star snub, behind the plate.
And walking up to home plate is Ricky Henderson. Receives a warm round of applause here in Oakland. A couple of words with Mickey Tettleton. Ricky missed 12 games on the disabled list with the hamstring problem. And for the 52nd time in his major league career, and it's his record, led off the game with a home run. You got to have Ricky Henderson in the lineup if you're La Russa and the A's to have any chance in the second half.
Well, Ricky, if he can get healthy, he's the catalyst for this ball club. And if he's healthy and plays the whole way, the A's are in good shape to run with the Twins.
2 balls and no strikes to count. Bill Gullickson, by the way, has given up 14 home runs. We saw Bobby Welch give up a leadoff home run to Tony Phillips to begin the ball game, and that's where we stand, 1-0. And Ricky looks at his first strike of the evening, but as a good leadoff man, he's relaxed up there at the plate, in no big hurry, wants to see what Gullickson has.
Ricky always leads, is at the top or near the top of the league in walks, runs scored, stolen bases, and on-base percentage. He's the prototype leadoff man.
This one is to deep right center field, but playable. Kyler goes over. He has company, but Kyler makes the catch and runs into Deere. But luckily for Kyler, Deere saw him coming, and they brushed, because Kyler would have come out second in a collision to big Rob Deere. Wow.
See, now, if you're the outfielder and you're both going for the ball, the person that calls it, you should never cut in front of the outfielder like Deere did right there. He must stop, go down to his knee, or something. Apparently, Kyler did not call the ball soon enough. Now, that can be a real distraction for an outfielder.
Mel Kyler survived that. A little run-in with Rob Deere. Here's Carney Lansford, and he looks at the first pitch. Usually, Carney goes up there hacking at that first one. Gullickson is low, and the count is 1-0. 1-0 Tigers, first inning. A's trying to make it 5 wins in a row. But John, the Minnesota Twins still playing good baseball. The Twins have won 4 in a row. The A's have won 4 in a row. Last report, it was a 2-2 tie, 9th inning, Boston at Minnesota. It's going to be quite a race in the second half, I think, between those 2 teams.
See, I think those 2 teams in September are going to be fighting it out like a couple of heavyweight champions. Now watch Bill Gullickson. Watch how funky his delivery is. He's got a very herky-jerky motion. He hides the ball well, and at the release point, he's very disconcerting up there. I used to face him and could never pick the ball up on him. Never throws a straight ball. Of course, he'll mix up fastball. He's got a sinker and a cutter type of fastball, curve, slider, and straight changeup.
This one is hit well to the gap, but moving over is Kyler to put it away. So the A's have had a couple of good rips here in the first inning. Jose Canseco coming up. Let's go back to last night and just marvel at the grunt and the swing power of Canseco.
It's Canseco's first at-bat last night.
So Canseco off the DL last night and went 0 for 2. He was the designated hitter last night. And I talked to Jose before the game, and he says, well, I'm doing certain exercises to try and strengthen the shoulder that he hurt taking extra batting practice. It wasn't as if he ran into a fence, but he's playing in pain, and you got to play in pain, especially with the kind of money they're paying him. You play hurt.
Jose, in my opinion, is the premier power hitter in the game today when he's healthy. There's Jose's father. How do you pitch Jose? Well, you got to stay hard in. Most of the pitchers in the league stay hard in on Jose because he's so strong he can hit the ball out to the opposite field. You see, he has an open stance. He's used to getting pounded inside.
In the air to right center, Deer and Kyler, and it's Deer without any problem. So 3 fly ball outs here in the first inning. Jose Canseco's dad saw his son take a nice cut, but 1, 2, 3 on fly balls, 1-0 Detroit. Coliseum, Paul Olden here with John Stearns. Welcome to ESPN Friday Night Baseball from the coast. Got a cool, partly cloudy evening in Oakland. Temperature in the mid-60s today, and Bobby Welch has been a hot pitcher, though, belying the weather.
There's Welch's number, 7-4 and a 2.70 ERA. He's been on the DL twice this year with a bad leg and tendonitis in his shoulder, but he's really settling in and becoming the ace of this staff.
What's unusual for Bob Welch these days, 73, now 74 innings, 74 and a third, and he has recorded 28 strikeouts. Mickey Tettleton, the batter.
Well, I can remember when he was younger and pitching for the Dodgers, he used to throw all fastballs, 90-plus, move it around within the strike zone. Now, as he gets older, he's becoming more of a pitcher, going to the breaking ball more often. And there's the straight change.
Been throwing that changeup quite a bit as well. And as the plate umpire, Drew Coble, examines the baseball, rest of the crew, Derwood Merrill at first base, Rick Reed at second base, Tim McClelland is the umpire at third. And we're in the second inning. 1-0 Tigers on a leadoff home run, the first pitch by Tony Phillips. This one might get down into center field. Brown was playing deep, and it was hit off the handle. Base hit for Tettleton. Little blooper. Jose Canseco with the fly ball to end it in the first inning.
This is strength here. He hits this fly ball to right center. He knows he didn't get it all. And there's Mr. Canseco. I think he wants to blow this ball out of the park. Is he trying to blow it out?
I think so.
Looking for number 19 on the year. He didn't quite get it.
Well, some people accuse Canseco of being full of hot air, but certainly can't say that for his father. What a thrill to watch your son play, no matter how many times you've seen it done. Dan Gladden with a fly to Canseco. One away. So Dan Gladden, the guy, John, that was leadoff man for the Minnesota Twins for several seasons, and he simply didn't get the job done trying to move over Tettleton with the fly ball to right field. So 1 out, and Tettleton at first base, and now Rob Deer is in there.
You hate to see a guy jump on the first pitch or a pitch early in the count when the leadoff man gets on base. You like to try to work that count a little bit, see if you can work a walk. If you give the manager the right count, he's got the option of playing hit and run.
Rob Deer is grounded into 4 double plays. Bobby Welch at this stage of his career, John, I think is more apt to get double play pitches than earlier in his career. As you mentioned, he was a hard thrower, and I mean, he was challenging guys up in the strike zone, but not anymore.
And he threw the high fastball a lot when he was younger. You'll see him throw not nearly as many fastballs as he used to. 80% in the old days, now down around 50%.
Not much behind this one. Could be tough in the twilight, and it is Brown finding it and making the catch. Looks as though Jerry Brown was a little lost when the ball was initially hit.
Jerry really a second baseman, but he's done a super job playing all the different positions this year for manager Tony La Russa. And he had played in the outfield previously, but not too much in center field.
Scott Livingstone, the batter. The A's are expecting Dave Henderson to be ready any moment. Dave has been suiting up. He's in uniform, has not been activated, but he has completed his minor league rehabilitation stint, and they're thinking Johnny could be ready this weekend. Here's a shot down the right side, and it is Canseco playing it safe, going to third base, Tettleton, and the Tigers have runners at first and third. Canseco electing not to try and make a shoestring catch of that. And you have to make up your mind, John. I guess in that situation, if it gets by, the Tigers have another run.
Well, Canseco with that sore shoulder, I'm sure he was thinking about not trying to dive out on the grass, but he didn't get a good break on the ball, and he wasn't running 100% to try to catch it. I think he made up his mind early that that was a base hit. And if you're the hitter in that situation, you say, thank you, Mr. Canseco, I'll take it.
And so the inning prolonged. Here comes Milt Kyler. 1-0 Tigers, second inning. Looking for more with 2 outs. Arnie Lansford weighing on the grass at third base. Livingstone at first, and over at third is Tettleton.
The Oakland A's bench looking on.
1 strike is the count. And he tried to drag it with him for a base hit and missed. He's got to take that ball down the first base line, right?
Well, what he has to do on this, Paul, with 2 outs and a runner on third, it's not a bad play. If you bunt for a base hit, you get an RBI. But in this situation, he was trying to move the ball past Bobby Welch. If he gets it by Welch on the drag, he'll have a base hit. Welch can't get there in time.
But now 2 strikes, 0-2 to Kyler. First and third for the Tigers. Milt Kyler, as a left-handed hitter, is batting just .219. However, he has 19 of his 27 RBIs as a lefty. And Bobby Welch happy to be pitching at home, especially during his current hot streak, but he trails 1-0. A shot and out of the reach of McGuire. Tettleton checks in. Livingstone to third, and it's 2-0 in favor of Detroit.
Well, that first run is always the most important. If you get a lead, you win the game most of the time. And here's the 1-2 pitch to Milt Kyler. He drives that ball in the hole to right field. And we see Scott Livingstone, he's going to third base all the way. Now, as this ball is thrown in, he should turn around and pick the ball up. There he is. Milt Kyler, a big 2-out base hit. Those 2-out RBI base hits are so important because your club is just 1 out away from ending the inning. Now you drive in the run, and the inning is still alive.
So the Tigers trying to snap a 4-game losing streak, jump out 2-0 with their big gun on the mound, Bill Gullickson. And now with the score 2-0 on 4 hits for the Tigers, here is Tony Phillips, who hit Welch's first pitch way over the right field fence in the first inning for his 8th home run of the season. Kyler at first is a threat to run. He has 8 steals. To the right side, and Bordick makes the play, but the Tigers get a run on 3 base hits, leave a couple on. And at the end of 1.5 from the Oakland Coliseum, the Detroit Tigers 2, the Oakland Athletics 0. Right back to play here at Oakland, bottom half of the second inning, 2-0 in favor of the Tigers. And it'll be Harold Baines, Mark McGuire with 28 home runs, and Terry Steinbach versus Bill Gullickson, who retired the side in order in the first inning. However, he gave up 3 fly ball outs, and the first 2 were hit pretty well by Henderson and Lansford. And then Canseco hit under one for the 3rd out. And now Bain stands in, hitting at almost a 350 clip over his last 16 games. Fryman picks it off, 1 away.
Harold Baines has raised his average from 217 to 248 in the last 16 games, and he hits this ball solidly to shortstop Travis Fryman. 0 for 1 on the night.
So Bill Gullickson set to work to Mark McGwire. Coming off the home run hitting championship and the All-Star Game Fan Fest on Monday. The home run hitting contest there. As seen on ESPN.
Man, did he put on a show. What was it, 8 home runs in a row that he hit?
Yeah, something like that.
12 total to win the contest. That had to be exciting to watch him go up in the stands that many times in a row.
1 ball and 1 strike to Mark McGwire. And sometimes when you're trying to hit home runs, even off of batting practice speed pitching, it's not easy.
You kind of get in a groove. He definitely got in a groove there, and they had a pitcher throwing the ball about 60 miles an hour right down the middle.
A shot off the glove of Livingstone. Goes as a base hit. Ruled too hot to handle. I think I would have to agree with that.
Well, Tiger coach Dick Trzaskowski told me that before the game that Scott Livingstone is an above-average major league third baseman. But here, Mark McGwire sends a bullet down the line. Let's see how Livingston... See, that ball was hit very hard. It looked a lot easier on camera than it was in reality.
And in fairness to Livingstone, a ball hit that hard. I mean, I know there are some people saying, well, he should have gotten in front of the ball no matter what. He kind of side-saddled it, admittingly. At the plate is Terry Steinbach. Steinbach at 276, 8 home runs, 24 RBIs, and a nice on-base percentage, over 350. And Bill Gullickson working with McGwire at first base. He's not a stolen base threat. Terry Steinbach, one of the many potential free agents for the Athletics, and John, he is in line, I would think, to reap some major dollars. We're talking probably improving on Darren Dalton's multi-million-dollar contract as a catcher for the Phils, because the A's really don't have anybody down on the farm to take his job.
Looks like the A's are going to have to re-sign him, and you know that his agent is going to go in and compare his salary to the other catchers. I know that Darren Dalton is making $2 million plus, so that would probably be a starting point as far as Steinbach is concerned.
1 ball, 2 strikes. McGwire at first base, 1 out. Twisted foul out of play. It's 2-0 Tigers. We are in the 2nd inning. On deck is Jerry Brown. Mark McGwire at first base after a 1-out single. A couple of hard hit balls here in the inning. In fact, the A's, John, when you look back over the scorebook, although they have been retired 4 in a row and then McGwire got the first hit, they've been getting pretty good wood on Gullickson's pitches.
Gullickson taking advantage of the defense. He's letting them hit and wants them to hit the ball at somebody.
Down the line, fair ball. McGwire is into second base, headed to third base, holding. It's 2 for Steinbach.
Anytime you get a 2-strike pitch hit hard, especially when the count is 1-2, you don't feel too good about it. Here's Gullickson, and he throws that sinker right down on the inner half. Steinbach does a good job of getting the bat head out and hits that ball just over the bag at third. Third base umpire Tim McClellan right on the play, and Danny Gladden picks it up in the corner. McGwire can't score, but the A's in business with 1 out.
Steinbach at second base, and McGwire at third base. And at the plate is Jerry Brown. And Brown goes the other way, but it's a foul ball. Jerry is a left-handed hitter, batting .288 and 7 for his last 15.
And what a difference as we see Mark McGwire coming around second base. Mark not known as a real speedster. But Jerry Brown, released out of spring training by the Cleveland Indians, getting a lot of playing time here for the A's and making a solid contribution.
Played every position except catcher, pitcher, and first base. Jerry Brown. A shot the other way. Tell you, they're taking their whips against Gullickson, but he has a 2-0 shutout at this point. But it seems, John, a question of just for how long.
Gullickson, the trend continues. Again, he's been struggling his last 3 starts, and the A's are just sitting in there and making a lot of hard contact. What he has to do in this situation, Paul, is start coming inside hard. He needs to come off the plate with the fastball.
Runners at second and third, 1 out. No chance for Livingstone. Count holds 0-2. We're coming to you from the Oakland Coliseum on this Friday night here in Northern California. And the Athletics winners last night 4-0. Kelly Downs, a surprise, coming over after being released by the Giants. He pitched very well last night with relief help. 2-0 Tigers here in the second.
Brown this year hitting .325 with runners in scoring position. He's 13 for 40, so let's see if he can continue that trend here against Bill Gullickson and the Tigers.
2-strike pitch on the way.
That pitch, they're very tough to lay off. When you're going good, you seem to be able to lay off those marginal pitches. And on 2 strikes, Gullickson makes a real nice pitch just out of the strike zone down. And when you're struggling, you probably ground out on that pitch.
Third base McGuire, second base Steinbach. 2-0 Tigers, second inning, 1 out. Up the middle off the glove of the pitcher Gullickson. Fryman makes the play, but the A's get a run and they're on the board. So it's now 2-1 in favor of the Tigers. Gullickson slowed it up. Who knows? He might have prevented that ball from going into center field.
Well, Rene Latchman, the third base coach for the A's, had the contact play on, and Gullickson tried to stab this ball. The runners were moving, so we would have had a pickoff there. Here's Mark McGuire coming down. There's the contact play. He's going on contact on the ground, and the runner at second base coming over also. But McGuire scores the first run for the A's as Gullickson was unable to come up with that ball. RBI Jerry Brown.
And now Billy Muffa, the pitching coach, is coming out to check on Gullickson. It looked as though he got most of his meat hand and that deflection. And so they'll see if he can continue. Let's go to Gary Miller.
Paul, Budweiser takes us to Comiskey. What a game this has been. Now we're in the 11th. They're tied again at 3-all when Robin Yount hits a blast. Sean Abner at the wall. Loses his hat, but what a grab. But Ramon Hernandez was not out of it. A bullet by Darrell Hamilton gets the job done, scoring Paul Molitor. They've scored in the 9th, 10th, and 11th. But the White Sox have answered as they get a chance in their half of the 11th. Back to you.
Okay, Gary. Here's Mike Bordick with a man at third base and 2 outs. It's 2-1 Detroit here in the second inning. Bordick has still grabbed the headlines, John. Remember when he was leading the league in hitting, and no one expected him to do that, but he has leveled off. But he's leveled off at .318. He's still in the top 10.
And Bordick 11 for his last 18. You can see there where in June he has struggled a little bit, but just recently brought his average back up. Bordick had a string of 6 consecutive hits snapped last night, his 3rd time up when he grounded out in the 6th. An undrafted player from the University of Maine. He's really made it big time here for the A's.
Gullickson, for the 3rd hitter in the row, has a 2-strike count. Then he went 1-2 to Steinbach, gave up a double. 0-2 ground ball to Brown, and now the 0-2 pitch to Bordick. Out of play.
Here's another guy that's really a support type of player that has come in, and he's one of the reasons why the A's have been able to play well in the first half. They weren't counting on Bordick playing this well, and he's picked up the slack when the veteran players have been on the disabled list.
So the A's, I think it's safe to say, John, have not missed Mike Gallego very much. And Gallego has been injured most of the season for the New York Yankees after signing a big contract.
Yeah, I don't think they've missed him at all the way this guy has played. Probably a blessing in disguise that he went over to the Yankees.
Runner at third, 2 outs. This one might get down. No. Kyler is playing shallow and catches the line drive. So a run on a couple of base hits, no errors, and a man left at third base. End of 2, 2-1 Tigers. Oakland Coliseum, top of the third inning of play, 2-1 Detroit. And Bobby Welch set to go to work versus Lou Whitaker, Travis Fryman, and Cecil Fielder. Beautiful night here in the Bay Area. And the first one out of play off the bat of Whitaker, who grounded out his first time. Bob Welch gave up the leadoff home run to Tony Phillips, and then another run in the second. There's a pitch inside, John. Maybe he has a little bit of purpose to it.
I'll tell you the kind of player Whitaker is. He's played 1,999 games at second base. He has 198 home runs and 2,031 hits. The only other second baseman in history who has played 2,000 games and collected 2,000 hits and hit 200 home runs is Joe Morgan, Hall of Famer. Well, that's pretty good company that Lou Whitaker is keeping.
Here's the 1-2 to Whitaker. And again, he stays alive by knocking it out of play. Whitaker's old double play partner, Alan Trammell, of course, still recovering from his stint on the disabled list with the ankle injury. Sparky Anderson is saying not sure how much playing time Tram's going to get in the second half. Another foul ball.
See, that's the big question in Detroit is when Trammell comes back, is he going to play at shortstop or is he going to have to move to third? Travis Fryman now at shortstop, 23 years old, the best throwing arm in baseball from that position. And Travis has taken a hold of that spot for the Tigers.
Livingstone at third currently does the job with the glove, but he does not provide any pop in the lineup. But again, the Tigers really don't care that much about it. However, you have to figure out something to do with Alan Trammell. Sparky was saying that if it were left up to him, I mean, Trammell wouldn't even play in the second half, that he'd just let him sit out, get totally healthy, and look towards 1993. That might be easier said than done.
See, they haven't given up on Trammell. He's only 34 years old, and they still feel that that he can play, but something's going to have to give in Detroit at the shortstop position.
2-2. Quite a battle down there. So Lou Whitaker leading off the third inning and making Bob Welch work. And Sparky Anderson out of Dorsey High in Los Angeles, and boy, it seems so long ago that he was heading up the big red machine in Cincinnati. He's not looking to give up managing anytime soon. He hopes to be around for the resurgence of the Tigers if and when the team can figure out what to do with their playing site. And in fact, they'll build a new ballpark. Lansford for the first out. Let's go to Gary Miller.
Paul Budweiser takes us to the Big A, and not a good night for Scott Sanderson and the Yankees. They're already down 5-0. This double by Luis Polonia brought in Stevens and D. Sarcina. Soho doubled him in, and Sanderson's given up 7 hits and 5 runs, and they've only played 2 innings. We go back to you.
Thank you, Gary. Travis Fryman stands in with a fly ball to center field his only time. Angels down there trying to make it 5 wins in a row, beating the Yankees last night. And Melito Perez walked in the winning run.
I was surprised to see Melito Perez in that situation, a starter, getting all those runners on in the 9th inning, and he's allowed to stay in and walk in the winning run.
Yeah, I did that game on radio last night in Southern California, and you know, Buck Showalter came out there in the 9th inning, and there was some discussion that he was just flat out talked out of making the change. So he had the bullpen active. Travis Fryman at the plate, and the count is 2 balls and 1 strike. So Travis on his current pace, well, he's going to get over 600 at-bats this season. So this will be a true test second half to see how he is able to hold up.
Travis Fryman gives you so much that a shortstop doesn't give. I mean, you get power from him. He's got 57 RBIs to be up among the leaders in the league. That's very rare for a player in his position.
To center field, and Jerry Brown. So 2 outs, and Travis Fryman in the All-Star game the other night in San Diego. He's only 23 years of age. And the Tigers have a history of having some young, outstanding players go to the All-Star game.
And they've had
Fryman enjoying his stay there in San Diego. And so with 2 outs, Cecil Fielder is the batter. Easy pop-up if it's playable. Steinbach and McGuire. And it's a 1-2-3 third inning. Any pitcher would like to get rid of Cecil Fielder on 1. So at the end of 2.5, 2-1 Tigers. Reminded about ESPN's America's Game of the Week Sunday from Three Rivers Stadium. Barry Bonds of the Pittsburgh Pirates versus Ryan Sandberg and the Chicago Cubs. 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock in the West, as the Cubs and Pirates do battle. Well, it was interesting when Barry Bonds made those comments the other day about not wanting to play for the Dodgers because he felt that the Dodgers were a little unorganized and Strawberry and Davis were never in the lineup. And, well, Strawberry really took off after Bonds, saying that, well, what's Barry ever done, and especially in postseason? Oh, that stings.
And he also said that when he puts up the kind of numbers that I have over the number of years that I have, then he can start talking about it. So
yeah, well, Bonds has put up some good numbers.
He
already.
Definitely has. Longevity, not as much as Darrell.
Yeah, it could be one of those situations, as Walt Weiss stands in, that you can look at it from 2 ways. Either Bonds was popping off a little too much, or the truth hurts.
Darrell always getting himself wrapped up in controversy.
Cecil Fielder takes care of Walt Weiss. 1 away. And then on the other side of the field, I'm not sure if Greg Maddux is going to pitch Sunday in the game to be shown on ESPN, but Maddux turning down $28 million over 5 years, saying, nope, not enough.
I want to call him and find out what he's thinking about on that deal. If somebody's putting something in his drink, maybe it's affecting his judgment there. I can't see turning down $28 million, especially with this winter, the unknown climate of the free agency. After last year, all the big money that came out, and you don't know if it's going to happen again.
Exactly. He's taking a major gamble. He and his agent, Scott Boras of San Diego, and maybe things will get back on the table before the season is over with. Perhaps this is just a ploy.
See, that's $5.6 million a year for 5.
See Ricky Henderson there talking to himself. Let's go back to last night in the first inning. There it goes. 52nd time in his big league career that he slams the leadoff home run, extending his major league record.
See, I think if Ricky's healthy in the second half, that the A's can challenge the Twins. I know the Twins have started their engines and they're off roaring.
They won tonight.
And they won again tonight. They're on a roll, but I think the A's can go with them if they get healthy. Canseco and Henderson, of course, are the key, and Dave Henderson.
This one peeled out of play. Yeah, it was Minnesota beating Boston tonight 3-2. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on all the scores throughout the evening. Larry Miller in our Baseball Tonight studios. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And what's amazing about the A's, John, is that over the last really 3 seasons, they have had to deal with tremendous injuries. And Tony La Russa somehow has kept the team together. Two outs.
See, in my opinion, this is La Russa's finest job as a manager in this year, because the A's are playing almost 600 ball. There's Travis Fryman, the young shortstop for the Tigers. Let's watch him come in on this ball, catch the ball on the run. Now, his throwing arm is the key. He never throws the ball harder than he has to. And he won't show that off unless he goes in the hole and has to throw somebody out. There's a Travis Fryman banner all the way out here in Oakland. Fryman for president. Detroit Tigers. Somebody lives out here that grew up in Detroit.
A little too late for him to be president.
He doesn't want to be president anyway. He'd rather be the shortstop for the Tigers than president any day.
If Ross Perot doesn't want to be president, then Travis Fryman has no chance. 1 ball, no strikes to Lansford. He goes after the second pitch, twisting foul ball out of play down the line. 1-1.
Getting back to the job that Tony La Russa has done, you know, Dave Stewart on the DL right now, and Lance Blankenship also on the disabled list. We look at the Tigers bullpen, but when these guys come back, if everybody gets healthy the way they're playing, we could have a 2-team battle in September.
Base hit through the hole on the left side. 2-out single for Carney Lansford. The score is 2-1 Tigers. We are in the 3rd inning with 2 outs. Both starters still out there. Bobby Welch for the A's and Bill Gullickson for Detroit. Now Jose Canseco with a fly ball to right field his only time. Jose playing in front of his dad tonight. He's sitting in the front row right back of the A's dugout. Another esteemed guest here in the ballpark tonight, the commissioner of baseball. He was holding court on field before the game. And in town for the weekend is Faye Vincent. Jose Canseco with the count 0-1. Lansford away from first base. 2 outs, 2-1 Tigers.
Canseco, despite missing 24 games this year, there's only 7 players in the majors to have hit more home runs. He has 18 home runs at this point and 48 RBIs. He again will probably reach 100 RBIs and 30-plus dingers.
Not going anywhere except into the glove of Deere. And that will do it here in the 3rd inning. That's his dad on the right. He's in the middle. And the first time up, his father was blowing the fly ball. He didn't do it this time. 2-1 Tigers.
Great game in the Metrodome tonight as Budweiser takes us there, and it's Chuck Knobloch facing Jeff Reardon in the 10th, and the winning run aboard, and it squirts through there, and the Twins have won it. They have beaten the Red Sox 9 of the last 10 times they've beaten it, and a 1-run victory tonight.
Thank you, Gary. So the Minnesota Twins continue rolling along, and the A's now trying to keep pace, attempting to match the Twins' winning streak, which is now at 5. A's have won 4 in a row, but trail 2-1 as we go to the 4th inning, and Mickey Tettleton stands in. How about the way Tettleton holds his bat? It seems very, very carefully and gingerly. It's almost like he's holding a piece of crystal instead of a bat.
Tettleton tremendously strong. 19 home runs. Was left off the All-Star game team this year.
Jerry Brown calling for it. 1 away.
And Ivan Rodriguez, the catcher for Texas, 20-year-old catcher, made the club. I know a lot of the Tigers were upset about that decision.
Well, Tom Kelly said, hey, it's time to bring in some new blood. And that was part of his argument for leaving Cecil Fielder off the team. But, you know, I think as commentators and fans every year say, well, how come some of the same guys are getting on the team? Let's bring in the new players. And then when they bring in the new players, well, what happened to the old guys? So it's one of those things where you can't win, and you make your decisions and you stand by them. And Tom Kelly, I'm sure, will not second-guess himself, despite what we say. Dan Gladden, a former Minnesota Twin, played under TK there in Minnesota. One ball and no strikes to count. 1 out, 4th inning. It's 2-1 Tigers.
There's an example of how Welch has changed his repertoire and the way he goes about his pitching. On 1-0 count, he throws Gladden a little guy type of hitter, a breaking ball for strike one.
Trying to pick on the outside corner with that fastball. Moving the ball around is Bob Welch. Three and one the count. Bob Welch has not walked anyone in the game. He gave up a leadoff home run on the first pitch to Tony Phillips and has settled down, but still trails 2-1 here in the fourth. Gladden came up across the bay here in Northern California with the San Francisco Giants. Atlanta shutting out Houston tonight. So Atlanta hanging with the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds beating St. Louis 8-1, so the Braves remain one game back. How about that race, John, in the West?
I'll tell you one thing, Atlanta, if you'll recall, about a month ago, Atlanta was way down under 500, and they have really been on a roll. And like we predicted early on, they're going to be there in September with the Reds. I think we're looking at two excellent races there in the National League West and here in the American League West.
Picked off by Lansford. 2 outs. And over in the East, Montreal winning tonight, beating San Diego, while the Pirates lost. So Montreal trails by 4. St. Louis also lost. So the Expos pick up some ground on both the Cardinals and the Pirates. Montreal coming out of the blocks in the second half, 2-0, and making life difficult for Greg Riddick and the Padres. And there has been continued speculation about Riddick's immediate future with that team not being very bright as Rob Deere takes ball 1.
I would think any time they get on a 2 or 3 game losing streak that Riddick has got to start feeling nervous at this point.
Weiss can't handle it. It's a base hit. Toby Harrah was told he'll manage the rest of the season for the Texas Rangers. But here tonight, John, we have a great example of two managers who are very, very safe and can essentially call their shots. And we're talking about Sparky Anderson and Tony La Russa. What a luxury.
See, these two managers, along with Tommy Lasorda of the Dodgers, can do just about anything and not be questioned about it. Whereas you get a young guy like a Tommy Reynolds, who was dismissed earlier this year by the Montreal Expos, and a Greg Riddick, they're just not in the good old boy
third baseman
group.
There they are, La Russa and Sparky, talking to Dave Vincent, the commissioner, who is here for the weekend. And looks like Sparky he's rather shy in that conversation. The commissioner spoke to season ticket holders here about an hour before the game. They have a little convention room downstairs underneath the stands, and the season ticket holders were invited to come on down and ask the commissioner anything they felt was on their minds. It was a lively exchange. He is definitely the commissioner for the people. Base hit. So back-to-back singles with 2 outs for the Tigers. And now Milt Kyler comes up, and Kyler supplied an RBI single first time up.
We're talking about Sparky Anderson. He started the year with 1,921 wins to rank 8th on the all-time career wins list for manager. His career winning percentage of .558 ranks 10th on the all-time list. So he's been a guy that he came up with Cincinnati, inherited that great ball club, but he has won in Detroit also.
Yeah, he came into Detroit and said, hey, I can make a winner out of this club in 5 years, and it took him less than that time to do that. Breaking ball starts off Kyler low. Kyler on a 1-2 pitch singled sharply into right field in the second to drive in Mickey Templeton with the second run of the game. That's the margin for the Detroit Tigers. It's 2-1 with 2 outs here in the fourth. Runners at first and second. And Welch falls behind in the count now, John, 2-0. And Kyler's looking for a nice fastball because Welch has been picking with the off-speed stuff.
Kyler can afford to be very picky right here. He should look for a fastball that he can drive. If it's not exactly what he wants, take the pitch.
There are your runners. Lead man Deere, first base Livingstone, and now the 2-0. Another miss.
See, a lot of times hitters put extra pressure on themselves when they're hitting at 2-0 or even 3-1, and they fish for a bad pitch out of the zone. That time Kyler doing a good job of laying off the sinker just down and away.
Let's see if he has the light. 3-0 with 2 outs. Looks at a strike over the outside corner. Tony Phillips on deck, and Phillips homered first time up. Fourth inning, 2 outs, 2-1 Tigers. Runners at first and second. And now the 3-1. Tigers happy to have an advantage now with a full count. Rob Deere and Livingstone will be off on the pitch. Deere is not very fast. And on deck, the dangerous Phillips, the former A. Out to shortstop and Weiss on the move, and the tag missed. Everybody's safe.
Speed comes into play every night, and Milt Kyler hits a slow roller to the shortstop. Walt Weiss playing back, try to knock the ball down, keep it in the infield with 2 outs. And let's watch Kyler get out of the box. Walt Weiss comes in, takes the ball on the run. He makes a great play, throws the ball a little bit up the line, and McGuire could not get the tag on him before he touched the base. Nice play by Walt Weiss, though. This just shows you how much ability it really takes to play shortstop in the major leagues. He can't believe it.
They charge him an error for the wide throw. Bases are loaded now, and here is Tony Phillips, and Walter Weiss now will concentrate on taking part in trying to get the last out here. Home run for Phillips and a ground ball to second base. Funny, last night Phillips still maintains his home here in the Bay Area, and his wife was listening to the radio, and Lon Simmons of the A's broadcast said, well, Tony Phillips might as well be sitting on a stool there at home plate. He crouches down so low. And Phillips said his wife told him that, and he came up to Lon Simmons before the game and said, hey, don't you talk about me needing a stool now. I'm not that old. I don't get down that low, but he's down there in a pretty good crouch as we look at La Russa, worried because the bases are full of Tigers.
Welch again falls behind 1-0, and Tony Phillips, not a good guy to fall behind. He's second in the American League in walks with 74.
Foul ball. 1 ball and 1 strike. Third base Deere, second base Livingstone. First is Kyler. It's 2-1 Tigers. There, look at your runners. We're in the 4th inning with 2 outs, and all this happening with 2 down. Deere a bloop single. Livingstone a ground ball single. Kyler reaching on the throwing error, charged to Walt Weiss. Tigers have out hit the A's 6-3. But it's only 2-1 Detroit.
Phillips this year with the bases loaded, 2 for 3 with 6 RBIs, hitting .667.
Two balls and 1 strike. Now, guys who bat out of that extreme crouch, and you think of Phillips right here and Phil Plantier of the Boston Red Sox, what advantage does that give them?
I don't think it gives them an advantage. I think everybody hits different, and guys like Pete Rose used to hit out of a crouch. It's whatever makes you feel comfortable out there. When hitters strike the ball, most of them are in the same position, but stances tend to vary. You get a lot of guys stand straight up. Here's Phillips in a crouch. The main thing you have to do is keep your front side closed, wait on the ball, and be quick with your hands.
3 on, 2 outs, 2-1 pitch. Ruth Coble says strike 2. And for the plate umpire, he is not supposed to vary the strike zone just because a hitter is in a deep crouch. I mean, you're not shrinking the strike zone that much. At least you're not supposed to by heading out of a crouch. So Bobby Welch, if he has a good fastball to try and strike out Phillips, needs to rear back and find something. Bases loaded, 2 outs. And Tony Phillips at the plate with Lou Whitaker on deck. So with the second batter in a row, Welch goes 3-2, and the runners will be on the move once again. Deere, Livingstone, and Kyler from third to first. Now, what do you think, John?
Well, this is one of the most exciting, tense plays in baseball. When the 3-2 count with 2 outs, everybody moving. The guy on third base, he has to start late. You don't want to run into the throat of a guy swinging the bat. Tony Phillips is going to get a fastball to hit here. I don't think Welch can afford to risk throwing a breaking ball or a changeup. You love to be in this situation as a hitter. Thinking about RBIs, the more RBIs you get, the bigger your next year contract is going to be. It's not often that you get a pitcher in a situation like this. You have runners on, they're moving. You know you're going to get a fastball to hit.
Phillips has walked 74 times and struck out 38 times. Bases full, 2 outs, 3-2 the count. 2-1 the score. Tigers, we're in the 4th. Here we go. He's out of there on a controversial call.
The ball looked high to me, and that's what Tony is upset about. He's very high.
Well, the A's turn away the Tigers. Look at him. He is very upset. Still 2-1 Detroit. Pitch, and Tony Phillips does not like Drew Coble's strike zone.
That looks high to me. I tell you, Phillips is really hot on this call. And I think the reason he didn't get thrown out is Drew Coble thought it was probably a marginal pitch.
Well, we'll see if the strike zone varies for the rest of the game or if he will stick with that kind of high one. Again, maybe he was saying, well, if Phillips wasn't in that deep crouch, that's a strike to a guy who's not squatting down like that. Anyway, we move along now to the bottom of the 4th inning with Baines, McGuire, and Steinbach. So right there, that trio, John, for the A's to contend with as potential free agents. There's only going to be so much money to go around. I mean, they're not going to retain all 13 of the free agents.
A's with a whole bunch of players that are going to command a lot of money to re-sign, and Dennis Eckersley is one of them. There's an article in the paper today in Oakland where Dennis Eckersley and his agent are negotiating with Sandy Alderson, and they're close to a contract.
That's almost a no-brainer for Eckersley. Well, how about Baines? Do you think he will be back next year? Or can they replace his bat with somebody coming up from the minor leagues after they got a look at several different players this season?
Well, they've got Troy Neal, who's doing a good job. He's a left-handed hitter, and I don't think Baines will be back unless he's willing to take a large pay cut.
Leadoff walk here in the 4th inning. Potential game-tying run now on versus Bill Gullickson. And here is Mark McGuire, who has singled and scored. McGuire working with a different hitting instructor this year, Doug Rader, the former Angel manager. I think that's made a little bit of a difference as well.
Well, he's gone back to that crouch that he had in his rookie year. You can see how he's crouching down, and he's really found success again. 28 home runs at the break. I mean, he only has to do mediocre in the second half to reach 40 on the year.
1 strike is the count to McGuire. Terry Steinbach next. 2-1 Tigers, 4th inning. But a runner at first base, Baines, with a very short lead.
All right, let's watch and see what Gullickson does here on an 0-2 pitch to Mark McGuire. Should be a pitch that is not in the strike zone, but has some purpose to it. McGuire in that crouch, that pigeon-toed crouch that we talked about.
I want to compare some numbers. McGuire, Canseco, Cecil Fielder, the sluggers here in the ballpark tonight, and take a look at the production. All the way dating back to 1990. And Cecil Fielder coming back from Japan and impressing everybody. And what a lead he has in the RBI count as well. So 1-2 to Mark McGuire. Bill Gullickson coming off a 20-win season for the Tigers last year. His previous high had been 17 for Montreal in 1983. Runner at first base, none out. Out of there is McGuire. He's punched out.
Now this ball was a strike. I think Mark McGuire knew it. He didn't offer any argument on that call. Let's watch this breaking ball right out on the outside corner at the knees. Tettleton gives him a good look. Mark, go back and sit down. He knows it. Sometimes they throw a pitch like that, there's not much you can do.
Plate umpire Drew Coble. Now Terry Steinbach stands in. Doubled first time up. The A's with that lone run in the second inning. Single by McGuire, double by Steinbach, and a ground ball by Brown for the run. Been out hit by the Tigers 6-3. Minnesota won tonight, so the A's have to win to remain 2 games back of the Twins in the West. Minnesota at home now 29-19, and versus the Eastern Division 31-18.
And I read in the paper today where Minnesota plays 47 games at home, more games at home. So they have the schedule working in their favor. It's very tough to go into the Metrodome. It's so noisy up there, and those fans are just rabid for the Twinkies.
2-0 the count to Steinbach with Baines anchored at first base.
Steinbach, one of those free agents we talked about, and it seems like Oakland has got to re-sign him. Of course, Rick Honeycutt, Gene Nelson, Ron Darling, Kelly Downs, Mark McGuire, Carney Lansford, Harold Baines, Willie Wilson are some more of those names, along with Dave Stewart. All free agents after this season is over.
Stewart was scheduled to pitch Sunday, but his elbow is not 100%, so they set him back 3-4 days. So they're not sure who is going to pitch here Sunday versus Detroit. But Stewart in an unenviable position, I would think, John. A questionable arm now. He had been struggling last couple of seasons, and he wants big dollars. 2-2.
Stewart, even he's got to come back and have a very strong and healthy second half to even get signed next year. He's going to have to take a big cut, I believe, unless, of course, he turns things around, and maybe he'll win 10 games in the second half. To do that, though, you know that his arm has got to be healthy.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Runner at first base, 1 out, 2-1 Tigers. We're in the 4th. I think the A's have to take into consideration, even if he does, let's say, win 10 in a row or something, is that enough to warrant what he might be asking for?
I don't think Dave Stewart is going to get more than a 1-year contract next year. I think anything more than that would be foolish by management to sign him to.
Runner on the move on the 3-2. Fryman to second anyway. To first, a double play. So despite the fact the runner was on the move, the ball was hit in the perfect position for the Tigers to turn 2 anyway. So here in the 4th inning, no runs, no hits, no errors, and no one left on base. At the end of 4, 2-1 Tigers. Back with you, top of the 5th inning from the Oakland Coliseum, ESPN Friday Night Baseball. Lou Whitaker starts it off for Detroit. It's 2-1 Tigers. Tigers with a run in the 1st and a home run by Phillips, a run in the 2nd with 2 outs, a couple of singles, and then Tyler with the single to drive in the 2nd run, and the A's got a run back in the 2nd. And now Bobby Welch, John, picks up where he left off, falling behind in the count. It's now 2-0 to Whitaker.
And Whitaker, with 51 walks in just 235 at-bats, he's 2nd in the American League to Frank Thomas in on-base percentage at .420.
Three 3-0. Travis Fryman is on deck. Then Cecil Fielder.
Bobby Welch's pitch count, 69 pitches through 4 innings. He's very wild at the present. Anytime you can't throw that fastball over the plate for a strike, you're hurting.
So that's the first walk of the game for Bob Welch, but it belies the fact that he's had several 3-2 counts and pitching behind in the count tonight. And now the dangerous Travis Fryman stands in. A couple of fly ball outs to center field. There's the first one in.
Now, there was a time Lou Whitaker would be a threat to steal, but anymore, as we look at Dick Tracewski, third base coach for the Tigers, Lou Whitaker with just 2 stolen bases this year in 6 attempts.
And now the count is 0-2 to Travis Fryman. 13 home runs, 57 RBIs. And Bob Welch with an ERA a little over 2 after his last 3 starts. And the A's have been pitching very well. Twisting away from Canseco, past him. Canseco runs it down in the corner. Whitaker to third, and now the ball is bobbled out there. So Whitaker comes home to score, and into third base is Fryman. I don't know what happened in the corner, but you heard the crowd reaction, and then Dick Tracewski looked over and saw Canseco having some problems down in there, out of our line of sight. And next thing you know, the runner comes home. So it's a double and an error charged to Canseco, no RBI. See if we can find out what happened there in the corner. Yeah, this is a good angle.
See, Canseco, he knows it's a base hit. He didn't get over and cut it off. He picked the ball up, and it got away from him on the throw. The third base coach had Lou Whitaker holding up at third, but sent him after the ball was dropped. There's Lou Whitaker scoring from first base.
So Canseco simply dropping the ball as he was preparing to throw it.
And he didn't really run hard over to cut that off, and that's why the fans are upset here.
3-1 Tigers here in the 5th. Now Cecil Fielder. He is 0 for 2. Man at third base, none out.
Here's an interesting situation. Infield is at halfway here with nobody out. Now, if you're the third base coach and the infield is at halfway, you have to tell your runner, well, make it be through. So he won't be moving on contact. Of course, if you bring the infield all the way in here with nobody out, you're going to open yourself up to a possible big inning of letting this guy get on base.
Pretty good hitter with runners in scoring position, as you just saw. It's 3-1 Tigers here in the 5th. Man at third base, none out. Now the 1-1. The Cecil Fielder, who was described at one time when Pat Gillick, the GM of the Toronto Blue Jays, sold his contract to the Japanese League as a non-athlete, a base clogger.
I think Cecil has that comment taped to the inside of his locker. He reads that every day when he comes in.
2-1 delivery. That's amazing, and in almost every sport, and I think in every sport, we put together thoughts about how an athlete should perform based on his weight and or his size. He's a little guy. He's not going to hit for power, but then you have a guy like a Jimmy Wynn, a small fellow with power. And then you have a very big man as Fryman comes down the line from third, like Cecil Fielder, who has responded. And I don't care what Pat Gillick says. I mean, this is an athlete. I mean, and able to play and perform as Cecil Fielder has had over the last couple of years. You have to have the hand-eye coordination of a highly trained athlete.
And he's got good, quick feet out there at first base. Not a liability on the infield. He can get around, pick the ball out of the dirt.
Jammed him, popped him up, and it's a mile high. He's out if Lansford can catch it, and he does.
That's a good job of pitching by Bobby Welch, and you could see what the strategy is against Cecil Fielder. Keep the high fastball on him, go up the ladder. Fielder very frustrated with nobody out, the infield at halfway. You can see that ball was in and up, and Welch just decided to go hard up on Fielder.
So third base umpire Tim McClellan directing traffic down there to make sure that Lansford had a clear track to catch the ball. Tettleton at the plate and looks at a strike with the infield in and one out. It is 3-1 Detroit, and the Tigers with a man at third base thanks to that error by Jose Canseco on the double of Fryman, which allowed Whitaker to score. The error, that is, and to pad the Tiger lead. A's bullpen is quiet, if you're wondering, despite the fact that Bob Welch has been kind of rocky in the last couple of innings.
Now Tony La Russa brings the infield in with one out, looking to cut off this run. Travis Fryman leading off at third base.
Well, what they do is they're in on the corners, and then shortstop and second base play halfway and then start charging the plate when the pitch is made. Why do that?
Well, they're coming up. They're just getting a little momentum coming up. So with a little bit of momentum as the pitch gets to the hitting zone, they feel like they can move laterally a little bit better than getting up all the way up and setting up in a stationary position.
Bobby Welch trying to prevent Tettleton from going deep here. Tettleton with 19 home runs, 52 RBIs. 14 of the home runs have come as a left-handed hitter.
Now Welch throwing like he used to throw in Los Angeles. A lot of fastballs and high in the zone. Some guys just seem to be able to get away with that, and Welch is a guy that can do that. Of course, he moves the ball in and out and never gives you that good pitch right down the middle to swing at.
Travis Fryman was the runner at third base as Tettleton hangs in there. And there's Dick Tracewski. Trixie, a longtime lieutenant of Sparky Anderson. He'll be with the Tigers as long as Sparky is. Remember, what was it, last year or a couple of years ago? Sparky was under pressure to move some coaches because there was some thought that the coaches were too old. 2-2.
Tettleton is on a pace to become the first 30 home run a season, back-to-back 30 home run seasons by a catcher since Roy Campanella did it in 1950 and 51. Campanella had 31 in 50 and 33 in 51, so Tettleton can match that.
Runner at third, infield in, 3-2. It's 3-1 Detroit in the fifth. Now, they played the game last night in an amazingly fast for Oakland. 2 hours and 23 minutes. I don't think we're on that pace tonight. Lansford comes over. I don't think he has the play. Nope. Couldn't get over there in enough time to contend with the camera and all the wires and the gear.
This ballpark, by far, the most distance between the line and the dugout of any park I've seen in the big leagues. That ball normally way up in the seats at Tiger Stadium. It might have been in the upper deck.
Tettleton set to start Hackton again, 3-2. Dan Gladden on deck, 1 out, and a man at third base. 3-1 Tigers here in the 5th. So Welch seemingly, John, pitching around Tettleton, not giving him anything good to hit.
See, he's not very sharp right now. He's wild, but Welch is a guy that he pitches this way a lot. You can see his pitch count, 87, 54 strikes and 33 balls. And 87 pitches in 4 and 1/3 inning is too many pitches.
Still a quiet bullpen for the A's, and here is Dan Gladden. Gladden has flied out to right, grounded to third. A's looking for the double play, and they're not going to get it off the glove of Lansford and down the line. So Fryman comes in to score. Tettleton advances to second base. 4-1 Tigers. A shot by Gladden, and Lansford just couldn't react in enough time.
RBI single by Danny Gladden. He gets a breaking ball on the first pitch, and ball was hung on the inner half of the plate, and he drills it down the line. Lansford almost makes a great play. Travis Fryman had to make sure it got through. He tagged up and walked in. There's Danny Gladden on first base now. Tigers with runners at first and second and 1 out, and Tony La Russa coming to the mound.
Yeah, he has Horsman in the bullpen. He's buying time with this visit. And so La Russa comes out as Vince Horsman in the pen. Just underway warming. There he is, the left-hander. So the A's coming into this game with very, very impressive pitching. I mean, you couldn't touch them. Look at that.
Well, they had 2 consecutive shutouts, 3 straight 2-hitters, and 25 straight scoreless innings coming into this ball game. But Tony Phillips took care of that last one in a hurry. First pitch home run.
And the shutouts, too. A's slammed that first one deep over the right field fence. Looking like Ricky Henderson, his former teammate, leading off the game with a home run. Ricky did last night here. So the manager speaks, and Welch gets that first one in. Strike. Rob Deere has been bothered by a sore hand. As Sparky says he's okay now. Apparently Deere had to alter his swing somewhat. He has single, little blooper, and a fly ball to center field. Deere was 0 for 2 last night, playing for the first time since June the 23rd. He was hit by Jeff Reardon on the left hand that night. Reardon with his own problems lately, setting the all-time save record. 4 blown saves, and Minnesota won tonight 3-2 in the 9th inning. Runner at first and second. 1-2 the count.
Rob Deere led the major leagues in strikeouts last year, 175. He's got 80 so far this year. And this is a situation where he needs to make contact. Of course, he's got 21 home runs and only 38 RBIs so far this year.
He goes down with a mighty rip. So for Bob Welch, that is strikeout number 3.
This is a good pitch. It looks like he took something off and threw the straight changeup, and Rob Deere has no chance on that pitch.
So now Scott Livingstone, who is 2 for 2. Livingstone, no home runs and 15 RBIs, but Sparky Anderson is saying, I don't care about the home runs. We have enough home run hitters. Just play solidly at third base. I'll keep the confidence of the pitchers going.
And that's what his forte is. He's a good defensive third baseman and a left-handed hitter. But with the Tigers' home run power throughout their lineup, they can afford to play a defensive player at the corner.
Pendleton at second, Gladden at first, and now 1-1 the count. Tigers have so much rebuilding to do, and apparently the team is on the verge of being sold. That's going to come down perhaps in the next week, 10 days. Then the next issue of business, John, is to figure out what to do with the future of Tiger Stadium.
Well, that's the big issue as we watch Bob Welch's delivery here. There's Welch. He gets up on top. But the big issue is Tiger Stadium. Are they going to rebuild? Are they going to build a new stadium in Detroit?
Well, who's going to pay for it? Where is it going to be? Downtown, the suburbs? Welch deflects it. It probably would have been the third out had he not touched the ball. I think Welch interfered to the point, John, where Walter Weiss was taken right out of the play. I think that was in Weiss's range for the third out.
This play hurts you several times during the year, and of course you've got to teach your pitchers to try to field everything up the middle, and Welch just doesn't get to this one. That's a base hit for Livingstone. Kyler seems to be coming up in a lot of key situations tonight.
So the bases are full of Tigers again. They left the bases loaded in the fourth inning, left a couple of men on in the second, and now the Tigers have a chance to really break this thing open with Bobby Welch out there and Horsman in the bullpen. 0-1 the count. Of course, in addition to building a new ballpark, the Tigers trying to build in the farm system as well. And Sparky with 6 young pitchers on his staff, and he's going to be working them quite a bit in the second half, is giving them experience and looking towards 93. 1 ball and 1 strike. And again, John, that underscores the luxury that a Sparky Anderson has, as Tettleton, Gladden, and Livingstone occupy the bases for the Tigers. Two and 1. Must be awfully difficult for him to manage in the vacuum, or any manager. You know, Art Howe in Texas, another example. There's Dave Duncan. He figures to be a manager one of these days.
His name keeps coming up every time, but keeps coming up empty. Dave Duncan may need to have to get out and do some managing. See, I'm not sure Dave Duncan has ever managed before. Did he manage in the minor leagues?
Three balls and 1 strike the count. Bases are full. Of course, with Duncan here, he is paid so well that to take a pay cut to go manage other than the major leagues might not be something he's all that interested in.
It'd be very difficult for him to do. Welch has thrown 59 pitches over the last inning and 2/3, and he's got 101 pitches total.
It's a full count to Milt Kyler. And the left-handed hitter began the game hitting just .219, but 19 of the 27 RBIs coming lefty. This one is not going to make it down into the Tiger pen. I think they would like in the future, John, for Kyler to be in a position to steal more than 8 bases. He has tremendous speed and would be a threat.
Kyler, 41 stolen bases last year, just 8 so far this year.
Foul ball. He stays alive. So back to the stations. At third base, Tettleton. At second base, Gladden, and Livingstone at first. Sparky Anderson. He looks much older than he really is. He's 58 in his late 50s, but he's had that shock of white hair ever since he was, what, 13?
He had it when I first saw him managing the Cincinnati club.
And this should do it. It does. So Welch gives up a couple of runs, though, here in the 5th inning. And the Tigers with a 4-1 lead. Bottom half of the 5th inning of play from Oakland. It's 4-1 in favor of the Tigers and Bill Gullickson. I remind you about ESPN continuing coverage of the Tour de France this weekend, starting at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Stages 13 and 14, 170 and 125 miles respectively. And Greg LeMond, two-time winner of the Tour de France, still in 5th place. Leno continues to lead. So our coverage of the Tour de France with Barry Tompkins and company continuing over the weekend. 5 o'clock Eastern Time, 2 o'clock in the West, right here on ESPN. A's manager Tony La Russa. I was talking with Bill King, the A's broadcaster, Bill, and he was saying when the A's were playing essentially a Triple-A caliber club with so many youngsters in the lineup the other day, and all those guys were hustling and trying their hardest and running out everything. It was really kind of interesting to watch and fun to watch because you had guys who were very hungry, and under La Russa's leadership, you knew they were going to go all out.
He's doing a great job this year. A lot of role players have gotten a lot of playing time, and he's just gotten everybody motivated and patched things together, and he's got the A's well entrenched in this race.
Minnesota won tonight, so the A's have to win to keep pace and remain 2 games back in the West. Jerry Brown with a ground ball his only time. 1 strike to the Governor. Tigers 4 runs on 9 hits. And Bobby Welch is very lucky that it's not a lot worse than it is. The Tigers have left the bases loaded 2 consecutive innings and 8 runners on all told. And they have Kevin Campbell in the bullpen getting some throwing in. The A's. And the count is 2-1 to Brown. Out to shortstop and Fryman. Has time to recover and guns him out. Let's go to Gary Miller.
Ball at the Kingdom. It was a 1-all game. Jimmy Key facing Lance Parrish with 2 aboard, and Parrish hits a 3-run shot. It's his 6th of the year. The Jays have answered, though, with 3 in the 5th, so now it's tied at 4 as they go to the 6th inning in Seattle.
All right, Gary, thank you. Mike Bordick stands in. He is 0 for 1 with a line out to center field. So the guy they called the Big Wheel down at California and Anaheim, Lance Parrish, going deep. Pretty good combination now they have the catcher. I mean, some tremendous experience there with Dave Valley and now Lance Parrish.
Lance Parrish should help that ball club. Of course, Seattle's really struggling this year, a lot worse than everyone expected. They've got a fine offensive lineup with Griffey, Buhner, Edgar Martinez. Jay Buhner coming on strong. He's got 15 home runs now. Kevin Campbell in the bullpen for the A's. I think we'll see him as bad as Bobby Welch is struggling.
2 strikes, the count to Bordick. We'll talk about your stances from the other side of normal. Mike Bordick practically facing the pitcher.
And watch how he closes up that front side, though, as he strides into the baseball.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Gullickson, former #1 pick back in the 1977 June draft. Montreal Expos. Signed as a free agent with Detroit in December of 1990. 2-2. Down to third and handled easily by Livingstone. 2 outs. They've taken care of Bordick twice tonight. He was in the top 10 in hitting beginning tonight's play at 318. Kirby Puckett led the way, 336, and Edgar Martinez, Roberto Alomar, Carlos Baerga were all ahead of Bordick. And now Walt Weiss. He's had 1 at bat tonight and grounded to the right side at first base. ball and 1 strike to count to Bordick. We were talking about last night's game going 2:23 and tonight's game on a more normal 3-hour plus pace. Sparky Anderson, the Tiger manager, had made some comments about how to pick up games. We'll talk about it when we come back. The commissioner here tonight, maybe Sparky was explaining some of his ideas to him earlier. 4-1 Detroit. Thank you very much, Gary. And there's our new pitcher taking over for Bob Welch, Kevin Campbell.
Campbell's 27 years old, and the A's acquired him from the Dodger organization in a minor league deal before the 1991 season. He then went to AAA Tacoma last year and went 9-2 with a 1.8. Got called up to Oakland, was 1-0 last year for Oakland, and this year he's taken the right-handed setup role in the bullpen for the A's. He's 2-1 with a 5.28 ERA, and opponent's batting average against him 254.
So he faces the crouching Tony Phillips. As we start the 6th inning, Phillips was called out on strikes with the bases loaded in the 4th inning. He protested mildly to plate umpire Drew Copel as he walked away from home plate, but he was very, very upset. No question about that. The pitch appeared on replay to be high, but Copel called it, and Phillips was a goner. 0-2 is the count. Before the break, we were talking about Sparky Anderson's proposals, a 3-pronged approach to speed up ball games. And we'll duck some in here. And John would like you to comment and add your expertise as to whether or not Sparky has an idea. As the strikeout occurs, Tony Phillips goes down and 1 away. Lou Whitaker comes up. First of all, Tony said they have to bring back the rule when the ball is in the pitcher's hand. He has to pitch it within 20 seconds. I think Campbell held to that in this inning.
Tempo is very key to keeping the game going. These pitchers screw around out on that mound. They need to get the ball and throw the ball.
Now Lou Whitaker. Whitaker with a ground ball. All right. So the rule on the books, it is on the books. Rule 8.04 says pitchers may take 20 seconds between pitches when the bases are unoccupied. Violators may be assessed 1 ball. It's never enforced. Okay. Here's the next one. I like this one. Sparky says once a hitter gets into the batter's box, he should never allow to leave it. He can do anything in the box he wants, but if he steps out, it's an automatic strike. He says if that happens, I can't tell you how much time that would be saved.
That would be a good rule, except that what happens if you've got something in your eye, or maybe an insect lands on your nose and you have to itch it? Things like that happen all the time.
Oh, not that much.
Or what if the pitcher is quick pitching you and you need to call time and step out of the box?
All right, so John is not much in favor of that one.
But you would have to get in there and be ready. I mean, if that was the rule, you would get yourself prepared to follow the rule.
He said in the 3rd one, to speed up the game, every time you bring in a relief pitcher, he should not be allowed to warm up on the mound. Just bring him in from the bullpen and start pitching.
See, I don't like that one either, because you have to get acclimated to that mound. The one, it's different from the bullpen. There's Durwood Merrill, who's umpiring at first base tonight.
So Campbell coming on in his first inning of work with 1 out and no one on base. It's 4-1 in favor of the Detroit Tigers. And this one is going to drift out of play. Lansford gives it a hard run. Bobby Welch came in so impressive in his last 3 games. The ERA just a tad over 2, but tonight he just didn't seem to have his full repertoire going for him.
Threw too many pitches. That for 5 innings, 104 pitches, means that he was just working behind in the count, although it shows 66 strikes and 38 balls. It didn't seem like he had that much command of his pitches. We saw a lot of 3-2 counts in the 4th and 5th inning.
Full count here to Lou Whitaker. So you're not much in favor of Sparky's ideas. Maybe 1 out of 3 with the penalty about not pitching if you have the ball back and no one's on base within the 22nd allotment.
Well, the pitcher's tempo dictates the speed of the game.
Ricky Henderson puts it away. Let's go back to Gary Miller.
Paul, the Cubs won't have to face Danny Jackson at Pittsburgh in their 4-game series, but the Pirates have to deal with Steve Buechele, who knocked down his replacement's ground ball. Jeff King and Maddox gave up 1 run over 8 innings, winning it 2-1, lowering his ERA to 2.33. We'll have the Cubs and the Pirates Sunday at 8 Eastern. Back to you, Paul.
Okay, 2 outs, and here is Travis Fryman, who has doubled and scored, flied out twice to center field. It is 4-1, Detroit, and the count now is 0-1.
Well, getting back to the tempo of the pitcher, I think, you know, if the pitcher would just stand on the mound, get the ball, and get on the rubber and take the sign, that would change everything. You know, as a fielder, you want the pitcher to keep the tempo going. You don't like to stand around out there and wait.
And even with some of the suggestions by Sparky Anderson, it wouldn't be as if it's something radical like, you know, if it's an intentional walk, just say intentional walk and don't throw the pitches. I mean, it's not going to affect, you know, the rule book or the history of the game or even the basic stats. It's not going to alter anything along those lines. It's just really adhering to what's on the rule book already with the 20-second rule. And kind of a radical change if you ask a batter to, once you're in the box, not to get out of it. I mean, so many guys have routines.
Absolutely.
Just throw them off completely.
And when I played, I hated to get out of the box because I didn't like to get in the box and then have the pitcher start into his windup before I was ready. So I just stayed in the box.
2 balls and 2 strikes to count. 4-1 in favor of the Tigers. We're in the 6th inning with 2 outs, and Kevin Campbell's in his 1st inning of work. To shortstop, and Weiss comes up niftily for him. 1-2-3 inning for Campbell. That'll do it in the 6th from Oakland. And at the end of 5.5 innings, A's, knowing the Twins won tonight, need to keep pace, but trail 4-1. On in favor of Detroit. Tigers trying to snap their losing streak. Hey, football time coming up August 1st. Not that long down the road over in Japan. It'll be the Oilers versus the Cowboys as Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann get back to work for the 6th season of NFL football on ESPN. Warren Moon still trying to iron out his contract situation with the Oilers, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Some folks feel the Cowboys will be in contention for the Super Bowl this season. Get a chance to see the fine receiver Michael Irvin. Peter Byers now in center field for the Detroit Tigers. Football August 1st, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock in the West, right here on the ESPN. Now, Ricky Henderson. And the first one a little bit high, ball 1. Ricky, fresh off the disabled list. He seemed to pull up on a pop-up foul down the line earlier in the game, and some folks thought he should have caught it. But it didn't make a difference in that 1st inning. So the count now 1 ball and 2 strikes to Ricky Henderson. As far as working on Henderson's contract is concerned, that is not in the cards, I think, for the A's. This one will be a tough play for Fryman.
Well, I've been waiting to see Travis Fryman go in the hole, and you could see that he went back on the grass. He was sprinting toward the 3rd base line and threw that ball on the run, almost threw Ricky Henderson out. A slower runner, and he would have had him. Let's watch Fryman's range to his right. There he goes to the right on the grass, on the run, behind 3rd base, all the way to 1st. Not too many players that can even make that play.
So Ricky Henderson at first base. And we'll see if he has stealing in mind with Lansford at the plate. Henderson with 26 steals. He's been caught 5 times. Four to 1, Tigers. Ricky with a smile on his face. He and Cecil Fielder are real good friends. Henderson with a tremendous jump. He might have said to Fielder, baby, I'm going on the next one.
See, that's worth the price of admission if you come out to watch the game tonight. And Ricky with his 27th steal on the year. Of course, he spent a couple of stints on the DL. He just gets a tremendous jump off of Gullickson. No chance for Tettleton. And Ricky knew he was in there. Ricky 5th in the American League in steals with now 27 steals. Kenny Lofton leads with 32.
Pickoff play, but no throw. And that just goes to show you with all the time Ricky Henderson has missed, he's still very much in the American League stolen base hunt, as Lofton has cooled off considerably.
He will win that title.
Who?
Ricky will.
Okay. Out of play, 1 and 2.
What Ricky does, it's unique in as far as base stealers are concerned. I watched him when he was playing with the Yankees. I was a coach over there. He tries to anticipate and time the pitcher's move, and a lot of times he'll get stuck and not get it, but when he times it perfect and makes his break, he tries to make his break actually before the guy makes a move to the plate.
Henderson is 4 for 5 in stealing third base. And now Fryman, the shortstop, walks in behind him while Gullickson stares home. 1 and 2 to Lansford. The shortstop, and Henderson has to hold on as Lansford is thrown out. Carney is really upset with himself, I bet, John.
Well, down 4 to 1, I don't think he was trying to get him over in that situation. He needs to swing away. The A's need more than 1 run. We're in the bottom of the 6th. Gullickson really having a nice night. Saw his stats there, but what he's doing, he's throwing a lot of strikes. Using the defense, he's not afraid to let them hit the ball. He's only got 1 strikeout on the night to go along with 1 walk.
So Jose Canseco in the box, 0 for 2 with a couple of fly balls to right field. So you don't believe that the A's even had situational baseball in mind there with Lansford, huh?
I don't think so. I mean,
it hits Henderson in the head, and he goes to third base as Gullickson just lobbed it over the bag. Trying to catch Henderson napping, or just trying to make a little calling card, and it hit Ricky right on the helmet and deflected into right field. Wow.
Ricky had his back turned to the play. There he is looking out into center field, and Gullickson just flips the ball out to Lou Whitaker. He had to lead Lou into the bag because Lou wasn't on the bag. And he was hoping Lou would break over, catch the ball, and catch Henderson off the bag.
Oh, yeah, I guess a nice thought, but now Henderson is talking, and a check swing by Canseco. Take another look. As Chris Berman would say.
Ricky, he doesn't even know the ball's on the way. Of course, he sees Lou Whitaker running over. There was interference. Ricky would have been awarded third base had there been a play with that collision there with Lou Whitaker.
Error, of course, charged to Gullickson. And now the 1-1. And gone! Jose Canseco takes the grand tour. His 19th home run, and his dad gives him a standing ovation.
I tell you, his dad didn't have to blow that one out of the ballpark. There was a no-doubter by Canseco. These fans here tonight now getting a taste of 2 players that were on the disabled list before the All-Star break. Ricky Henderson and Jose Canseco, the 2 key guys on this ball club. Here's Jose getting this ball It's actually a fastball down and out over the plate, and he knows it's gone.
And now Baines follows with a single to center field. Canseco as the Bash brothers. Look at this Bash.
Here's Gullickson, a fastball on the inner half of the plate. You don't want to be inner half to Jose. You want to be in on his fist, and he was able to get that bat extended. Mr. Canseco pushing the ball foul. There it is.
Tigers now with warming action in their bullpen, and John Doherty starts heating up. In the first inning, Jose hit a fly ball to right field. His father stood up, was waving the ball, and was actually blowing, trying to help it go, but it was really a routine fly ball. And his dad was really into it then, and now, in fact, sees the home run, and there's Doherty. 4-3 Tigers. Mark McGwire in the box. For Gullickson, that's his 15th home run allowed this season. McGwire has singled and struck out. Baines at first base. Well, excitement here at the Coliseum. Whitaker and Fryman, and it's Whitaker taking over. Let's go to Gary Miller.
Paul, speaking of the long ball, here in the Kingdome, Jimmy Key had gotten back into a tie situation, but then Ken Griffey Jr., the All-Star MVP, goes opposite field for his 16th of the year. It's 5-4. Lance Parrish hit a 3-run homer earlier in the game. He's at it again. His 7th of the year and his 2nd of the game, a solo shot, and it's 6-4 Seattle now as we go back to you in Oakland.
So the Toronto Blue Jays getting kind of cuffed around there in the Kingdome. See, Baltimore began tonight's play 5 games out, and the Orioles shut out Texas 8-0. Meeting at the mound, but Gullickson will stay in for the moment as Doherty continues to warm up in the bullpen. It's 4-3 Tigers here in the 6th. A's have a man at first base and 2 outs, and the batter is Terry Steinbach, who's hit into a double play and a double.
Gullickson seemed to get flustered when he hit Ricky Henderson in the head on that lob at second base. Made a mistake to Jose Canseco, and that's easy to do. Canseco's healthy. He's going to be a terror in the second half for the A's.
Baines with a short lead. And this should be routine to end it. Rob Deere is under. 3rd out, but we've had a 2-run home run here in the 6th inning to get the A's to within 1 as Canseco takes the Grand Tour for the 19th time this year. Look at it go. 4-3 Tigers. Cecil fielder Mickey Tettleton, Dan Gladden in the 7th inning. Kevin Campbell set to go to work in his 2nd inning of action after replacing Bob Welch. 4-3 Tigers. So Cecil seeing Jose Canseco hit his 19. Fielder with 18 home runs and 75 RBIs. And he has worn the collar tonight. Now the 1-1 delivery. A shot. Boy, Campbell tried to knock it down, but it was well past him by the time he got the glove up. Cecil fielder ripping a single to center field.
Big Cecil gets the head out on this one. You get those arms extended with Cecil fielder, you better duck if you're the pitcher. He's got the full extension of those arms and sent a shot up the middle. Kevin Campbell lucky that missed him.
Cecil takes his lead, and here comes another slugger, Mickey Tettleton, who has singled, walked, and flied out. Tettleton, another combination guy who can do the work behind the plate and give you lots of offense.
And with nobody out, Mark McGwire playing behind the runner at first. Tettleton may pull a ground ball. McGwire will be there. Cecil Fielder not going anywhere. He's got no stolen bases this year on no attempts.
High and deep to right field, but playable for Canseco. One away, and Cecil Fielder tap dances back to first base. Now Dan Gladden comes up.
See, one of the problems with this Tiger ball club, they're last in the major leagues in stolen bases. Only 34 stolen bases in their first 90 games. They've been thrown out 30 times, so when they get a base runner on, there's not much they can do but sit back and wait for the 3-run homer, which a lot of times never comes.
Yeah. And, of course, in this ballpark at night, it is difficult to hit the ball out unless you just get everything into it, as Jose Canseco did in the previous half inning. But you use that to your advantage, too, if you're a pitcher. You don't mind giving up warning track fly balls.
Even Dan Gladden, a guy that's supposed to be able to run, he's only got 2 stolen bases this year.
And another fly to Canseco.
You get Big Cecil on first base to lead off an inning, it's almost like you need a triple to score a run. No, you're not going to move him up on a sacrifice. He's staying in the game at this point. You're not going to have a pinch runner for him.
Well, in effect, that some of the criticism of him in Toronto that he clogged the bases in many instances is for the most part true. But he's not the type of guy who's going to do any kind of running. Takes very conservative leads. And then the rest of the lineup here, you have Rob Deere, who can be pitched to very easily. Here with a bloop single. Vince Horsman up in the pen for the second time tonight for the Athletics. 4-3 Tigers here in the 7th inning with 2 outs. Now, what do you do if you're Campbell and Steinbach? You hook up 0-2 versus Rob Deere.
Well, you don't throw Rob Deere a strike. You know, he strikes out all the time, and you can go up high with a fastball inside, drop a breaking ball in the dirt, but you don't want to throw him a strike in this situation. Probably don't need to throw him a strike to strike him out here.
Let him get himself out, huh?
Steve Carlton used to strike out a lot of guys with sliders in the dirt.
2 strikes the count to Deere.
Of course, Deere, he's going for the home run on every pitch, so you don't want to give him anything to hack at.
1 ball, 2 strikes. So we'll see if Campbell tries to come a little bit up the ladder, maybe in tight somewhat to Deere to try and get him. Up and away, and that'll do it. Here in the 7th inning, no runs ahead, no errors, and 1 man left on. Stretch time here at Oakland. It's 4-3 Detroit.
You know a lot.
Back at the Oakland Coliseum, it's 4-3 Tigers. We go to the home half of the 7th inning. I want to remind you about ESPN Major League Baseball. This coming Monday night, the Dodgers, continuing on their road trip, go up the road, play the Mets at Shea Stadium, 7:30 Eastern time. Some of you will see the Cubs versus the Reds, but most of you will see the Dodgers and Mets. Dodgers bombed tonight by Philadelphia, 11-3. And the Mets shutting out San Francisco 1-0. Getting what seems to be like a rare win at home. Let's see, the Mets with that victory tonight, in fact, now run their season total to 43-47. And at home, the Mets are just now 1 game over the 500 mark. It has to improve in the second half, and they'll try and do it versus the Dodgers Monday, but cloud hanging over the Mets, of course. They're worried about Dwight Gooden's arm. We'll find out about that on SportsCenter. So here is Jerry Brown leading off the home half of the 7th inning with the Tigers by just 1, 4-3.
Well, let's keep an eye on Gullickson here. He's got 87 pitches coming into this inning, and he looked like he was tiring toward the end of last inning.
Tigers have Doherty in the bullpen, and he is ready right now. one was off balance, not much behind that swing, and Fryman.
Looking ahead, Mike Henneman, the Tigers stopper, I was told by Sparky tonight he's got the night off with a tender elbow.
In fact, Henneman's not going to be available for a long time.
Now batting second baseman,
So it's bullpen by committee again.
John Doherty, he's from Westchester County in New York. He's up, ready to come in. Looks like we're going to see him tonight.
Mike Bordick goes after the first one. Rob Deere in right field. For the A's, who made noise in the 6th inning with the 2-run home run by Jose Canseco to get close. Conversely, here in the 7th, going very quietly to this point as Walt Weiss comes up. Gullickson's got to be happy about that.
Gullickson's got a chance for one of those single-digit innings, which is just what he needs right now to get back on track. He was 20-9 last year, so Sparky will go with him. He's leading the staff in innings pitched. He's 9-6, leading the staff in wins. He works that ball around in the strike zone.
One and one to Walt Weiss. Ricky Henderson is on deck. Bill Gullickson still looking for that 10th win. His last victory coming on June the 26th versus the Texas Rangers at Detroit. That's a hit. 2-out single for Walt Weiss. Brings up the dangerous Henderson. Took a look into the dugout, and here comes Sparky. So George Sparky Anderson makes the signal to the bullpen. The right-hander John Doherty will be brought on. Anderson always never steps on the chalk. He's superstitious. And Gullickson is done. He leaves with a 4-3 lead. We're going to leave as well and come back and tell you how John Doherty has fared this season with the Tigers in front. Back at the Oakland Coliseum with Detroit up by 1. Ricky Henderson in the box, and John Doherty now takes over for Bill Gullickson.
And Doherty came up through the Tigers system. He's a 24-year-old right-hander. Look for him to throw the hard sinker in on the right-handers. As you see his stats this year, he was the 19th pick in the June '89 draft for the Tigers, worked his way through the system. He's got a good live arm, but his best pitch is the hard sinker. He stays with that pitch. He'll also throw a slider and a changeup.
Weiss at first base and fakes going. First one in there for a strike. And Doherty, John, coming up through the system strictly as a relief pitcher. He's made only one professional start coming into this season.
And he was a closer at every stop that he made. He had 15 saves last year at AA London. 3-3 record with a 2.22 ERA.
4-3 Tigers, 7th inning, 2 outs. Weiss on the move for real this time. Throw will get him anyway. Despite the high toss by Templeton, still in plenty of time to get Weiss. So Henderson will lead off the 8th inning for the A's. No runs, a hit, and a man left. Remains 4-3 Tigers. The Angels, first pitch down to third. And that will be that for Scott Livingstone. 1 away.
Now batting.
Yankees at last report in the 8th inning were trailing California 6-4. I recall the Yankees in the period after the All-Star break last year came out and stumbled. Nelson and Honeycutt. Nelson on the right. Be an interesting few months coming up for Buck Showalter, John, with George Steinbrenner perhaps coming back to the Yankees to run the club. That seems to be a certainty. And whether or not he will want to keep Showalter.
You never can tell with George. I think Buck Showalter, with his limited experience, having never played in the big leagues and managed at the AA level tops, has done a fine job this year. You know, he's a lot to that job in New York.
Skeeter Barnes, his first at bat and his first hit. Barnes came in defensively the previous half inning for Milt Kyler. And perhaps Kyler was not feeling well. Barnes brought into the game. And now single.
Something happened to Kyler there, because Detroit with a lead is not going to take out their best center fielder.
Now Tony Phillips. Well, this is a real big inning for the Detroit Tigers as they try to put one more on the board. Only leading 4-3, and they have out-hit the A's. I mean, they have out-pounded the A's 11-7. And the A's, thanks to a 2-run home run by Canseco, that's why they're close at 4-3. Otherwise, Tigers have been the ones blowing opportunities, including leaving the bases loaded in the 4th and 5th innings.
And the count is so important in this situation, as Tony Phillips, a good hit-and-run man. Skeeter Barnes runs fairly well at first base. On 1-0, we could see Barnes going on the hit and run.
So Les Lancaster now up in the bullpen. They had Mike Munoz a few moments ago, a left-hander, but now he's resting. Peter Barnes back on his hands and knees. Skeeter's been around, hasn't he?
Skeeter, 35 years old. He's got about 2 years in the big leagues, and 15. It took him 15 years to get those. He's been in AAA forever. He's a hard-nosed ball player, good, solid defender. Hits 300 in AAA every year.
He's on the move. Let's see if they can get the out. Nope. But they get it at first base. And Walt Weiss says, I tagged the runner at second. The umpire there says, nope, you didn't. We'll have to be the judge on replay. However, Weiss is sure that Rick Reed is wrong. You be the judge. Did he tag Barnes coming in or miss it?
Here comes Tony late out to talk to Rick Reed. Walt Weiss comes across the bag on the hit and run. There's the tag. I think he had a good argument. Skeeter Barnes' foot did not look like it was on the base yet.
I agree. I thought he was out based on that angle from the replay, but Rick Reed had to make an immediate call. And we're going to have a pitching change. So 4-3 is the score. Another look at it. Looks as though Weiss makes the tag, but Barnes is called safe. We'll be right back.
Now pitching to number 40, Rick Honeycutt.
Rick Honeycutt comes on now here in the 8th.
All batting, second base,
Honeycutt comes on. He's 37 years old now, but Tony La Russa does an excellent job in the last 3 innings with his bullpen. And Honeycutt on just to face one guy. He's going to face Lou Whitaker, go lefty on lefty. So when it gets down to the final 3 innings in a close ball game, Tony loves to have a lot of guys going in the bullpen.
Now he's got the right-hander Parrott up in the pen. Barnes away from second on that controversial call. It looked as though Walter Weiss tagged him out when he was sliding in, but he was called safe, and so it could be a very important run out there if Barnes can get around. Lou Whitaker at the plate. Travis Pryman is on deck. Here's still another one of the potential free agents, Rick Honeycutt. There's Parrott.
And this just shows how managers are going today. They can put in a pitcher like this to go to one hitter.
Walt Weiss on the move, makes the play, and so the missed call at second doesn't matter. Near the 8th inning, no runs, a hit, no errors, and 1 man left on. It's 4-3 Detroit. Called over the inside corner. Ricky says, say what? Are you sure?
And that's where Doherty has to throw the ball. Watch how his ball will run into the right-handers. When he gets that ball out over the plate, it's very hittable. There's the slider. Just missed off the outside corner.
Ricky Henderson has singled, stole a base, scored on the 2-run home run by Canseco in the 6th inning. He has also grounded out and flied out to center field. Excuse me, swing, and it's going to count. Lou Whitaker and his lack of range pays off for the A's. Gary Miller now.
Paul, the M's are breaking it open against the Jays. They were up 6-4 in the 7th with 2 aboard when Kevin Mitchell knocks in his 2nd and 3rd runs of the game. Edgar Martinez and Ken Griffey Jr. come home. It's now 8-4 as they've gone to the 8th. Baltimore could make up a game on Toronto. Back to you.
Okay, Gary, thank you. So Ricky Henderson with a check swing single. Lou Whitaker out there kind of limping at second base. And now we have pitching coach Billy Muffet coming out. So hold everything. Tigers with the left-hander in the bullpen.
Here's a situation where a lot of clubs would be looking at a sacrifice bunt here, but with Ricky Henderson on first, he probably can steal this bag, and I'm sure that Muffet went out to talk about exactly that situation. Got to try to keep Henderson close over there. He represents the tying run here in the bottom of the 8th.
Carney Lansford, the batter, has singled, grounded out twice. Dave McKay over to say something in the right ear of Ricky Henderson at first base while Doherty prepares to work. And so once again, the wheels start turning. They have a left-hander in the bullpen, Mike Munoz. Jeff Parrott and the A's bullpen, a right-hander. And now all eyes are on Ricky Henderson. And the thing with Henderson, John, is such an explosive start. He doesn't have to take a big, daring lead at first base. But quite often, he doesn't draw throws.
Most good base stealers don't want to get out too far, because when you get out too far, you've got to be worried about getting picked off. It's better to take a little less lead and get a better jump. You can get a better jump when you're closer to the bag.
Ricky Henderson stole his 27th base in the 6th inning. The bunt is down. And the sacrifice moves Henderson into scoring position. A's playing little ball. And Lansford is successful.
Veteran Carney Lansford not afraid to sacrifice in this situation. He gets the bat out in front in plenty of time, bends the knees, the barrel of the bat is level or up, and he lays down a perfect sacrifice bunt to the right side. Ricky Henderson walks to second.
Now with first base open, does Jose Canseco get anything decent to hit? With a left-handed hitting Baines on deck and a left-hander and a right-hander in the bullpen now for Detroit. Knudsen has joined Munoz in the pen. Remember, Ricky Henderson has stolen third base 4 out of 5 times. Jose Canseco slamming a 2-run home run, no doubt about it, blast in the 6th inning. 2 fly ball outs prior to that. We've seen a lot of players smiling tonight. Everybody must be in a good mood here.
Well, if you remember, Tettleton was on this A's roster 2 or 3 years ago, so Canseco and him obviously good friends. And Doherty's going to have to watch Ricky Henderson. He'll take third in a second.
He breaks for third, and time had been called. This does not count either way. Back to second base, Ricky Henderson. As Jose Canseco backed away, asking for time, and Drew Coble granted it.
Ricky not real pleased about that. He says to Jose, hey, I had a chance to add to my major league record. Jose steps out early. Tettleton couldn't throw him out. There's Ricky going in. Ricky will steal at any time in any situation. And Doherty, a rookie, not quite used to that.
So Drew Coble granting the request of Jose Canseco. 1 ball and no strikes to count. Well, Doherty with that little bit of information in his memory banks. Let's see how he reacts to it. 1-1.
That's where Doherty has to stay on Canseco. If he gets behind in the count, he has to stay with his pitch and not give in to it. Third base a lot of times is an easier base to steal than second base because you can get a better lead at second base and a better jump most of the time.
And quite often a catcher has to try and time his throw to hit a moving target, the third baseman. Whitaker at the bag, but the pitch to the plate. Another strike, a high one. 1-2.
And that's good pitching by Doherty. The previous strike to that pitch was in on the inside corner, and he throws this one on the outside corner. Jose up there going, what's going on here? Give me something I can swing at.
4-3 Tigers. We're in the 8th. 1 out. Ricky Henderson away from second base.
Tiger outfield playing deep and straight away. Base hit will score Henderson easily.
Two balls and 2 strikes. Rob Deere, though, playing up a little bit in right field. If the ball is hit hard his way, it could be very interesting at home plate. Rene Latchman, the third base coach, right in the box, set to go to work in case he has to wave Henderson on or try and stop him. Kickoff play.
Lou Whitaker almost at second base with Ricky out there, leaving the whole right side of the infield open. Cecil Fielder playing way over in the hole off of the first base line.
Canseco at the plate. 1 out. Once again, Whitaker is right over the bag. And now Jose says, wait a minute, I'm backing out.
This is the first time I've ever seen a second baseman stand at the bag and hold a guy on second, and Ricky gets an ovation here at the Oakland Coliseum.
And what's the responsibility of Canseco? Just to keep backing out when he sees that?
Jose just needs to swing the bat. I don't think he needs to try to guide the ball. See, this is what a guy like Henderson does to you. I mean, he totally takes over the situation. He's got the pitcher all flustered, and the defense is all moving around and out of position. That's why a great leadoff man with great speed is so dangerous and so valuable to a ball club.
Once again, Whitaker is shadowing the bag. Now he's right over second base. And Canseco hits under this one. Gladden is there. And for the catch, let's go to Gary Miller.
Paul, 2 of the best games of the night. One in Comiskey Park where they went into 11 innings. Seitzer had tied it in the 9th with one of his 2 home runs in the night. Jamie Navarro had a no-hitter into the 8th, but the Brewers pulled out 4-3 in 11. The Sox are now 10.5 back in the West because the Twins won their 5th straight. This bullet by Knobloch threw a pulled-in infield off Reardon, won it in the bottom of the 10th, and they are cruising with a 3-2 win.
So the A's trying to keep pace with Minnesota. We're going to have a pitching change here as Sparky Anderson congratulates John Doherty for taking care of Jose Canseco under adverse conditions with Ricky Henderson at second base. Mike Munoz comes on from the pen. And we're going to take a break and come right back and tell you what's going on here. It's 4-3 Tigers. We'll be right back.
ESPN Major League Baseball is brought to you by Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light. It doesn't get any better than this. And by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Back with you from the Oakland Coliseum, moving along in the inning with Baines now up facing the left-hander out of the bullpen, Mike Munoz.
Munoz leads the Tigers with 38 appearances, and in those appearances, he's only thrown 30 innings. So he usually comes in and faces one left-handed batter, as he is doing in this situation.
Ricky Henderson at second base. Baines has singled, walked, grounded out. It's 4-3 Tigers here in the 8th inning. As Sparky Anderson asking the bullpen to do the job tonight.
There's Mike Munoz's numbers. Remember, Mike Hinneman is not available tonight. He's been down for about a week with a sore elbow. Sparky said he won't pitch at least until next week.
Henderson away with Fryman near him. Whitaker coming on and makes the play. And so the A's threat comes to an end here in the 8th inning. No runs a hit, and Ricky Henderson is left in scoring position. 4-3 Tigers.
The Yankees started the second half walking in the winning run with the bases loaded in the 9th inning. It isn't much better tonight. In fact, I think it's worse. DeSarcina with a single knocks in Stevens and Fitzgerald. That made it 9-4. They're still scoring. It's now 12-4, and they're still batting in the 8th, and the Yankees are not enjoying their trip to California.
Back with you at the Oakland Coliseum, and Jeff Parrott now comes on here in the top of the 9th inning, trying to hold the Tigers to that 4-3 Detroit lead, John.
A's signed Jeff Parrott. He was a minor league free agent in the offseason. They signed him to a minor league contract. He made the club coming out of spring training, and he's been a very key setup man from the right side for Tony La Russa this year. Got great numbers, 5-0 with a 2.92 in 61 innings pitched. Only 47 hits given up, and opponents are only hitting 212 off of him. So he's the key man here to hold the Tigers to this one-run lead.
Travis Fryman in the box, and the first one is all the way to the backstop. 1-0 to Travis, who has flied out twice, doubled and scored, and grounded to shortstop.
Parrott with a very live arm. He throws sinker, slider, and split finger or fork ball. And he's been getting all 3 pitches over this year, which is the key to his success. He was in the Braves organization a year ago.
Fryman hits a fly ball to Ricky Henderson. 1 out. A's in the 9th inning will have McGuire leading it off. There's 28 home runs. Kirk Knudsen in the bullpen. And there's the pitcher for Milwaukee who pronounces the K, Knudsen, but this is just Knudsen.
Did you check with him on that?
I did indeed.
There you go.
Cecil Fielder in the box. 1 for 4 tonight, and it was a single. 11 base hits for the Tigers, 8 for the Athletics. Knudsen with some fans here. I remind you about SportsCenter coming up with Chris Myers and Dan Debenham. Big names out of the British Open. Harvey Grant, that issue is decided between the Knicks and the Bullets, and roundup of NFL training camps. Stay tuned. And of course, all the baseball highlights, scores, highlights, insights from around the major leagues. Just 2 other games going aside from this one. And the Angels with that big lead over the Yankees in the 9th inning. And there goes Cecil Fielder. Quiet night for Cecil. Couple of strikeouts, 1 for 5, and it was a single.
Parrott very impressive, mixing up the pitches and location on Cecil Fielder. Right here he throws him a breaking ball on the inside corner. Cecil must have thought that ball was high. Right in his wheelhouse.
So 2 outs. Here comes Tantleton. Cecil Fielder still with a little bit of a sting after finishing second in the MVP balloting last couple of years. And now being ignored in the All-Star game. No respect. One ball, 1 strike to Tantleton.
or not, Tettleton was released by the Oakland A's 3 years ago before he went over to the Baltimore Orioles. Went over there and got some playing time and really revitalized his career. Then moved to the Tigers, and he's really come on strong, especially in the long ball department.
Two balls and 2 strikes the count to Mickey Tettleton. Mickey choosing to hold the bat very still. Holds his hands relatively low. Can't catch up on that off-speed pitch. A little too early on the swing. Parrott strikes out 2 of the 3 batters he faces here in the 9th. So we go to the home half of the 9th inning. Last shot for the A's. 31, beating the Boston Red Sox 3-2. So the A's have to stage a comeback to stay to within 2 games of the Twins in the American League West. Kurt Knudsen now on the mound with Mike Henneman sideline. And Knudsen will try and close this one off, John.
Knudsen's a young guy, just 25 years old, up through the system. They really like this guy's arm. He throws about 88, 89 mile-an-hour fastball, slider, and split finger. And he's the projected closer on this club for the future. I talked to Sparky about Knudsen before the game. They're impressed with his arm. He's come up here and done a good job this year, 2-0 with a 2.72 ERA. Opponents are just hitting 240 off of him, so this is the role that he's going to be in the years to come.
From Arlington Heights, Illinois, attended the University of Miami. Now has to face a former USC Trojan and Mark McGuire, leading off the 9th inning with the A's down 4-3, but out hit by the Tigers 11-8. McGuire tonight has singled, scored, struck out, called, and popped up to second base. Only home run for the A's, a 2-run shot by Canseco, his 19th in the 6th. Now Knudsen falls behind 2-0.
Knudsen with just 2 saves on the year, so he has been in this situation before. He needs to come out and not be intimidated by McGuire. Go after him and make him hit.
Willie Wilson, a moment ago, seen loosening up in the bullpen, or rather in the dugout. 2 balls, 1 strike. Knudsen makes his off-season home here in Northern California, in Carmichael. So he has lots of friends and family here. We saw the banner earlier saluting his presence. This one is out of play. Knudsen ran almost to the foul line, pointing up. And Tettleton just kind of casually turned. Yeah, it's way out of play. And Knudsen is racing over, saying, foul ball, foul ball. I think he's a little pumped up.
Knudsen's fired up. He's a rookie. He's in a situation facing the Oakland A's. Mark McGuire, going to get any more exciting than that?
And he goes full now to McGuire. And Wilson in the dugout, waiting to pinch run if need be. Steinbach next. Strike 3 call.
That's a big pitch by Knudsen. And he throws a ball that Mark McGuire thought was out of the zone. Let's take a look at it. Oh, he thought it was outside. I thought it was right there on the corner. Too close to take by Mark McGuire.
So now Terry Steinbach, 1 for 3, double first time since, a double play and a pop-up. So the Tigers, who had the A's number in Detroit, and then the A's went on to Toronto and played very well prior to the All-Star break, and now come home, win last night 4-0, but trailed tonight 4-3. Minnesota beat Boston in the bottom of the 9th inning at the Metrodome 3-2. So the Twins could go up by 3 if the A's can't come back here in the 9th. Whitaker out and under. So a glimpse at the future here with Knudsen on the mound, John. Sparky says he's going to get all those young guys a lot of work here in the second half. That's all he really cares about. There's Sparky. So 2 away, and now the governor, Jerry Brown, stands in the box.
Tigers defensively had the corners on the lines guarding against the double. Jerry Brown needs to get on any way that he can.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Knutson just coming at these guys with raw power. He's just throwing that hard sinker. Not messing around. He's just not changing speeds. He's going to make them hit to get on.
And a fastball of his has a little bit of a tail on it. Seems to run back in.
He's got a live arm. I like his arm speed. I like his movement on the ball.
How many passes he has been giving out here last night and tonight. You know, he has his friends from the Bay Area watching, as are the A's. No friends of Knutson's. 3-1 the count. So he went full to Mark McGuire to start the 9th inning. Got him on a called 3rd strike. Got Steinbach on a pop-up. Now 3-2 to Brown. Skeeter Barnes coming on. And the Tigers win it and snap a 4-game losing streak and snap the A's 4-game winning streak. John?
Kurt Knutson comes on to pick up his 3rd save, and the A's fall 3 games back to Minnesota as Minnesota wins tonight. Tough loss for the A's.
So Jose Canseco with a 2-run home run tonight, his 19th of the season. Mark McGuire didn't hit any home runs, nor did Cecil Fielder. Now, Paul Olden speaking for John Stearns, bidding all a very pleasant good night from Oakland, California, where the Tigers and Bill Gullickson beat the A's 4-3. Good night, everybody.